Hi everybody, this is Heather. I'm your instructor for EDU 153. I wanted to make sure that you had an opportunity to put a face with a name and hear my voice. I'm going to talk about just a couple of things related to some of your assignments. You will see on the screen here a couple of goals, and the first one is not smart. It says, I want to drink more water. This is not specific because it doesn't say how much more water. It doesn't have a timeline. It's not measurable. The second one says, I will drink 64 ounces of water a day beginning September 28th. I will know I'm making progress because I will keep a daily chart of how much water I drink. So in this one you can see it's specific because it says how much water you're going to drink. It's timely. It says when you're going to start. And it's measurable because you're going to keep a daily chart. It's also realistic for me. What's realistic for you may not be the same thing that would be realistic for somebody else, or attainable. So if you don't drink any water and you say, I'm going to drink 64 ounces of water a day, it's probably not very realistic or attainable. A lot of the goals that were submitted for the assignment this past week were not SMART goals. In order for you to track those goals and see if you meet them, I really want you to think about making them SMART for the follow-up assignment, to journal about them and then for your summary. Alright, and I gave feedback on those, asking you questions, how are you going to measure this? So make sure that you read the feedback, especially if you didn't earn all of the points. Okay, so this week you also have an activity plan due, and this one relates to safety. And I'm going to pull up here the North Carolina Foundations for Early Learning and Development. All of you have had EDU 119, or you are taking it now. So the North Carolina Foundations for Early Learning and Development is something that you ought to be familiar with, and I want to draw it to your attention because when you plan an activity for young children, you wouldn't want to have a movement activity that included skipping for 2-year-olds. 2-year-olds do not yet know how to skip. So when you plan your activities and you think, I wonder if the age group that I'm planning this for can do this. This is the document that I want you to refer to. Alright, so you can make sure, scrolling down here to the table of contents, if it's an activity that is in health and physical development, and let's say in motor development, page 75. So let's go all the way to page 75. It's kind of crazy, sorry. And make sure we know how to read this. Almost there. Went too far. Okay. So motor development. Here we go. Okay, so let's say that the goal is health and physical development 5. Children develop small muscle control and hand-eye coordination to manipulate objects and work with tools. So we have what's typically developmentally appropriate for infants, younger toddlers, older toddlers, younger preschoolers, and older preschoolers. So infants we would say about up to 12 months, younger toddlers 1s, older toddlers 2s, younger preschoolers 3s, older preschoolers 4s. So if you're planning something that includes drawing and writing smaller figures for older toddlers or younger preschoolers, you would realize, probably need to change that, or change the age, or change the activity. So make sure that the activity that you choose fits the age that you've chosen to do it for. Alright, so let me know if you have any questions, and we will touch base soon. Bye.